Hi all, welcome to another painting tutorial. And this one we're going to be covering how to do Pea-dot cam, which is a camouflage that, for myself included, was something that I was somewhat intimidated by. And I've been kind of experimenting with my Charlemagne SS, my French volunteer unit, and it's not as difficult as I thought. So I've already primed and base coated the model and done the flesh. The flesh tones are already done. We're not going to go into that. I've explained how I do my flesh tones. So the entire model has been based with model color FS 30266, or the secondary one is 70.82 or 24 should I say, German cam orange ochre, and that's going to be my base coat. I'm going to use this over using cam beige because this is a warmer colour and I think it's a bit more suited to it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start adding our shading, and how we're going to do our shading is just by adding Agrat Earthshade, nice and simple. I'll just apply this liberally. We don't mind being a little bit messy with this, it hardly matters. And it just gives us our basis for the highlighting process that we're going to do in a few minutes. Highlighting camouflage can be a little bit daunting. I tend only to highlight the main colour unless I'm asked not to, or someone asks me to highlight all of it, then I will, but I don't like going too mad highlighting camouflage, for a simple fact being it's not really how camouflage is in real life. It's not designed to be highly reflective, if you will, of light, for that would be a very poor camouflage. So I don't like overexposing camouflage, if you will, from a painting perspective. It just that's just my personal taste on that. Some people will, and they do look good when it's done right, but it's too possible to make things too light, perhaps, you know. So nice and simple. Apply to the helmet, and what this does is, firstly, it darkens everything, and it also gives us a guide for painting. I also think the wash is important, as well as acting as a colour, kind of like for adding shade. It also makes all the detail pop out, and just makes it a bit easier to actually see various elements of this. So there we have it, nice and quick. And we're going to let this dry. Then we're going to come in and highlight the beige again using beige, and then we'll do a highlight on top of that again, and then we'll start doing our dot camo. So we're going to let this dry and we'll be back in a sec. Okay, welcome back. Just allows time for a wash to dry, so we can start highlighting now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just firstly go back with a coat of German camo orange ochre, and then we'll do a final highlight on some of the more raised areas. So it's always good to make sure that when we're doing our layering that we keep our paint as thinned as possible and not go in too heavy. So I'm just mixing a little bit of water into my palette. I don't use a wet palette just because I don't know, it's just I'm used to using just putting water into a spare piece of plastic. No, both things work just fine. So whatever you prefer, use. So again, we're just going to pick out areas where there's raised detail, if you will, like the tops of creases, and we're leaving the wash in the shadows. It's important that we do that. We don't want to eradicate the shadows. And again, it doesn't have to be over the top. You can go as far with this as you wish. You can go as many layers of highlighting as you want, though I always kind of say take your time with highlighting. Don't go too crazy, especially with camouflage patterns. And you're doing historical miniatures as well, as it doesn't look too realistic when you see an over-highlighted German or American GI type thing. It's just it works very well with like Space Marines or fantasy or science fiction stuff, I find, because you're not really having to follow the kind of the laws of reality in a sense. Now again, it's your model, so paint it as you wish, of course. It's just how I do it. So there you can kind of see how the trousers must begin to take it up again. Well, yeah, not, as you can see, I'm using a rather large brush for doing this too. It's just that I'm not, I'm just more kind of picking out elements and just pulling it back up. This here, and again I'm leaving areas of shadow the entire time. Again, mixing water into my paint, keeping it thin, and allowing it to flow a bit better. I don't want to be too heavy, and I make sure there's not that much paint on my brush either. You want to give yourself as much control over the medium you're working with. In this case it's the paint, so not a bit too wet, or I water that down a bit too much, so it's after spreading a little bit out of control, but I clean my brush off and I just work it in. Okay, that's too much water on my brush. And again, we're trying to maintain shadow as much as possible. If you're going too heavy, you can always go back with the wash and start again if you have to. Though, if you take your time, that will be a fight. You won't make a mistake. You just go in and take your time. Okay. I'm trying to speed paint this as quick as possible. I don't want this video going on forever, because I always tend to lose people's interest. But I think it's important to do these live and not speed them up. You know, I like to speed the sped up videos because it's nice and quick. But this is kind of showing just how long it does take to paint a miniature, you know. I think some people can kind of be taken aback when they go to actually work on a mini. The video goes on for 20 minutes and they're there almost an hour later. Now that's not saying that there's anything wrong with doing it that way, but I think it's just shows the actual steps and how you will use them. Okay, there we go. I went a bit too heavy there, I think. Yeah. And of course my brushes are beginning to... now I made a mistake. I'm just going to blame you guys for distracting me. Okay, since I made a mistake, what I'm going to do now is a small bit of airbrush cleaner, put into my brush and just wipe that away. It's the easiest way to clean this wet stuff away. So that's how I tend to clean areas if I make a mistake. I actually just mix a bit. I'll get a couple of drops of airbrush cleaner in one of my palettes and I just wipe it away using a brush. Let that dry for a little while then. Don't want to paint it directly above that for a few minutes or react. But anyway, that's the first stage of highlighting done. I'm going to do the same to the helmet. And then I'm going to do the second stage of highlighting only on the details I want to pop, like the epaulets, various pouches and pockets, and that's going to be done by mixing camo beige with the camo ochre, and we'll take it from there. So, no one saw that. So we'll take it from there. So I'll catch you back in a second. I'm just going to finish off doing what I'm doing, and we'll catch you with the next step. Okay, welcome back. Now we're just going to do our final highlights for the beige. I just mixed a bit of camo beige into the ochre, and now I'm just going to start picking out small little detail areas. I mixed about 2:1 ratio of cam beige to the ochre. So I do want this to be a little bit stark. So I'm just going to pick out elements like the tops of pockets, the collars, elements of the helmet, just elements that I want to draw attention to. I feel that a little stark highlighting will be beneficial. I'll do the epaulets. Some of the leading edges of them, the creases, just to add a little bit of difference. And for some reason my camera isn't really picking any of this up, but there is a very slight difference. And we're looking for subtlety. That's the trick to good highlighting, is just subtle. Be subtle. Don't overexpose, as I call when you go too bright too quick. Just take your time and build it up. Now we're going to be onto the easy part. A lot of people find this camo scheme hard. I actually find it a little easier compared to oak leaf or the Luftwaffe water pattern, I believe it's called, if I can think. The water splinter, which a lot of the late pattern FJ or Fallschirmjäger jump smocks had, and that's an interesting pattern to get right, and something you nice to have to practice on. So you might try that in some later video, because I feel like being a bit masochistic and punishing myself. Again, just picking out elements just to bring up, and there we have it. No point going. Hi y'all, welcome back. So now that we've done our highlighting on our base coat, we're going to begin doing the actual camouflage pattern itself. Now it is not going to be a complete reproduction of Pea-dot camouflage. When you're trying to replicate it in tabletop miniatures, it's not trying to get the, as I would say, the essence or spirit of it. It will look just as good. So what we're going to do is we're going to start laying down our blotches, and the two main colours we're going to use for that are going to be model colour, German Camo Bright Green, which is, as you can see, 70.833, and then the other main colour of blotches are going to be model colour German Cam Black Brown 822, and that will be the simplest form of it. And then we're going to have we'll do the dots in different colours then, which we'll take it from there as we go. So we'll begin. It's not too difficult, a camo scheme, to actually to get correct, or to get at least looking right. It just takes a little bit of time. So I'm going to start taking my camo bright green, and I'm going to start working that into the model. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to start doing kind of blotches of it. Simple as that. And just going to pick spots of it. So kind of making them semi-randomized blotches. I don't want to be doing too many, because if you look at the reference photographs that I really recommend before you start doing any type of camo scheme, get your hands, go online and just type up the pattern that you want to paint and have a look at some reproductions of the camo scheme, so you just have something to work on. It's a very smart way to go about doing camo schemes, and if you'll notice, with most Pea-dot camo, it's not too intense with blotches, What I mean by that is that the dots are the most prevalent feature of the camo, not the main blocks of colour. So make sure that we're only putting a few blotches of the colour down, and when we're doing the same pattern on the trousers and tunic, so when I go back now to do the tunic, I'm going to make sure it's a dark colour above the light green, so we can differentiate between both garments, which will all come apparent when we start layering up. So now we just go to the back, and again I'm just being random where I put it. It doesn't have to be too precise. And I'm doing this straight with the ball. I would recommend at least if you haven't tinned your paints, make sure that you're not applying that much paint onto your brush, so you have good control over what you're doing. And then I'll apply some here. I'll just keep working it up, just taking my time. That's the trick with most camo schemes, is just to take your time as you build it up, and don't try to rush the process. Like, once you kind of get the rhythm, it'll almost start painting itself. And so it doesn't have to be pretty. That's not the point of a camo scheme. You know what I mean? It's not like we're trying to get everything perfectly even, or trying to look nice. Now you can do that, there's nothing wrong with doing that, because you're doing it for aesthetics then. But if we're trying to make it look convincingly realistic, it doesn't have to be too fancy, if you get me, because that's not the point of a camouflage. It's trying to break up his outline. That's what we are trying to do. Now I'm not trying to be too heavy on the green, because remember I've yet to add in the dark colours. Just going to apply a little bit here too. And there we have it. There's the light green. I'm just going to apply a little bit onto his collar. Okay. Then it's going to be the exact same process on his helmet cover. So what I'll do is we're going to take our dark camo green, or should I say our black brown, and then we're going to start repeating the process. So I'm going to start adding the darker colours, and what I'll try to do is I'll try to get them somewhat close to the green to make them look somewhat interlocking. But again, I'm not trying to put all that much into it. I'm not trying to go too heavy, if you will, with the camo patterns. I want them to be somewhat isolated, which would be the easiest way to describe what I'm trying to achieve. But now what I made a little bit of a mistake, I went too heavy, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to wipe the paint away from my brush using my thumb, and actually just use the paint here and just work it into the model. And there you have it, nice and simple. Now this might look very stark, but when we start putting the actual dots of colour in, it begins to tone everything down. And as you can see, there's not really to it. And if you wish, we can come back and highlight these colours. I tend not to. I tend not to actually highlight the camo element of things that much. I just don't really like doing it. If you wish, you can just add a bit of white or a bit of grey into each colour and like highlight the centres of them. That's completely up to you. I personally tend not to, but that's just me. Completely up to yourself. And what we're going to do in the next video is we're going to actually discuss how to paint up German web gear, which isn't too difficult either. So again, I'm just going to kind of make it look kind of interlocking blotches. And if that's too heavy, I'm just going to clear my brush and just work it in. Also, you could do is you could look at various different camo schemes for Pea-dot and mix them in. So you could do the helmet one pattern, his tunic another, and his trousers another, and that would add a lot of visual interest to your model. I'm not going to do it with this one, so I just want to keep it simple. I kind of went in a little bit too much with the brown in places, so I'm just going to be careful not to go too mad with it. It is easy to kind of lose yourself and add a lot of blotches, and what happens is then the effect becomes too intense and the viewer's eye isn't quite sure where to focus. So that's why we make sure that we don't go too mad with the blotching. So we just give the viewer's eye time to kind of drift through the piece, if you get me. Yeah. There we go. So there we have our basic colours in. Now it looks very stark, but not to worry. It should, when we're finished, we'll have something that looks like this. You see, once we start putting the dotting in, it does make a very big difference. So we're going to let this dry for a few moments. And when it's dry, then we'll start putting in the final bits. I'm just going to do the helmet off camera using the exact same method, and then we'll start doing the final dots. And then we'll discuss if it's too stark, ways to tone it down and blend it all in together. So I'll catch you in a few seconds. Stay tuned, and we'll finish this off very shortly. See you in a bit. And welcome back. So that's allowed the paint to dry, and now we're just going to do the final touches. So I'm just going to take a mixture of there's two colours. I'm going to take the camo beige, or the camo ochre should I say, and the bright green, and we'll do our dots on that. So I want it to stand out. So I'm just going to do it on the rear of the model because it'll be easier to see. Position our light so we can have a good view of it. So what we'll do is we'll take the ochre and put it into the green areas, and we'll put the brown in the, or we put the green in the brown areas. So we'll just do little dots. We'll just take a fine tipped brush. Again, we don't want too much paint on our brush because we'll end up losing control and it'll get messy very quickly. I'm trying to hit myself with the light too, that would be nice. So I'll just pick the green patches and I'll start doing dots into the green, like so. It's a little bit hard to paint with a camera under your nose, but okay, you see it. But I get better camera where I can actually pull in close, but again, just add some dots into the main groups of colour. So now again, you can't really see that, which is a shame, but it is there. Now I'll take and under to the back to front. Alright, what I'll do is I just realised I put the wrong colour into the wrong blotch, but it doesn't matter, I can always paint over it. So I'll put the ochre, should I say, into the brown, because you can actually see it then. Ah yeah, we can actually see it much better. Again, I would just slowly begin to add them in. I have a little bit too much paint on my brush, I'm just going to wipe it a little bit off. So you can kind of see the beige blotches in the brown, and then we put the green, or we put the brown blotches into the green, because that'll show up much better and we'll actually be able to see our work. Mistakes do happen, you know, it is kind of late here. I just woke up a bit early and I decided I'll make this video, so my mind hasn't really come online yet, especially too after a wonderful 6.5 hours of babysitting. Yeah. If that doesn't drive you to insanity, I don't know what will. Because old family health issues have arisen again, but that's not for this video. Anyway, back to the tutorial, and try not to divulge too much what's going on in the old family life. So there we can kind of see I'm trying to add blotches in to break up the colour, and then what I can do is I'll take my black brown and start doing dots just kind of randomly in the areas that are just beige, just to tie everything in. And that's really how simple it is. It's not a difficult camo scheme. It just takes some time, and like, you know, we can see this video is already pushing into the 30-minute mark, which I don't like doing speed painting fades when I speed things up, because I wanted you to get an idea of just kind of how long it takes to paint the model, so you kind of get an idea of the flow, and this isn't naturally, like, you know, it doesn't take 3 minutes or 6 minutes to paint up a miniature unless you have it down to a T, and even then it's quite difficult. So I don't want to be kind of setting like high standards for anyone who's just trying to start, and it just means that you can paint along with me and keep up, like, you know. So just adding little dots here and there. So you can kind of see it is a labour-intensive means to paint camouflage. Sprinter camouflage is a little bit easier, though it does take just as much time due to the patterns are a little bit more exact. So they're both challenging in their own ways, but they're not impossible. And I have to say, I'm really liking Warlord's kind of Fall of Berlin theme sets. So we have this set, which is the Charlemagne set. It's one of the most characterful sets they've done. They've also done one which is the Last Levy, which is like the militia groups in Berlin, which I'm actually really want to get my hands on. It even kind of went as far to put like the child soldiers that fought in Berlin too, which is something that we like to conveniently overlook, which is a kind of shocking and sobering thing to actually think about. The fact that it was children having to fight on these streets as well against, what was it, 2.5 million Russians. You know, so. And then they've just really kind of piped it like they've really kind of outstripped themselves with creativity, as they've, it's the first time I've ever seen this done in 28mm, but they've just announced the imminent release of some Kriegsmarine, which are German naval troops. They're basically like German sailors who were roped into the defence of Berlin and other coastal installations. They also were used in kind of strike roles, often dismounting from their ships to do little raids, and they often fought in quite famously in Dieppe and during Operation, oh, what's it called? The Saint Nazaire raid. So that's very good to see them getting some attention too. So we might be doing a painting tutorial on how to paint German naval troops as well, because they are under dress blues, if you will. I know that's an American term, but it's the best kind of way. So you have a mixture of the U-boat leather uniform. It's kind of a blue, an off blue-grey uniform. Actually, like the leather jacket that Michael Whitman wore was actually a U-boat crew member's jacket. Don't ask me how he got it, but that's why it wasn't necessarily belonging to, like, that jacket was more for the not so much to the Panzer Corps. So yeah, so I was really looking forward to working on them. Should add some interesting painting tutorials for this channel. Should anyone care to give them a watch, it might be interesting. Also going to be doing a new how to paint, how to make a armor series. I'm not happy with the Rhino, so I'm actually going to take a German half-track kit from Warlord Games I have. I think it's going to be a bit more beneficial than using a GW product, to be honest with you. So we'll that'll be the next project after this tutorial. Okay, so there we have like the dots. As you can see, it's after toning everything down now. It's not as stark as it once was, and that's good, because we don't want it being too intense either. I'll add a few little green dots here and there into the areas that don't have any. Trick is not to go into, don't go too crazy with this. We just want to take our time. Now this video is dried on far too long, but again this is showing a good way on how to go about working on these camo schemes. So you just use that, so you use the same method for the entirety. So if we're having a green blotch, we'll do brown in the middle of it. If we have a brown blotch, we might do the beige in the middle of it, or the green. I recommend doing the beige dots in the brown areas because it shows up immediately. If I was you, always try to take the starkest colours and put them into the blotch, for the dots for each blotch, because we want that to pop immediately. So I hope that was of some use to you. I do apologise for the sometimes very difficult quality to see what's going on with the camera. It's just the camera I'm using. I'm kind of stuck with it until I can get some adequate funds to buy some new equipment. But hopefully this will give you a good idea on how to work with Split or with Pea-dot cam. So thanks for watching. Stay safe, happy modelling, happy gaming, and watch out for those buses. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.